Ayo, what is groovy? What is good? It's your boy Papa Capes, and we are back with yet another Raid Shadow Legends video. Massive thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video and for hooking us up with our own download link that you can find in the description below. Using that link directly supports me, directly supports the channel, and just helps us continue building what we're building right here. If you or your friends or your family members or anybody that's part of your community decide to use that link in the description, you'll be greeted with Tholen Foulbeard right out the gates. And as you progress just a little bit, you'll then meet the likes of Ugo, Tagore, and Mausoleum Mage. Right now, you can use code RAID7 to get Pelops the Victor or code Wrath to get Padraig. Keep in mind, that's two legendaries that you'll be starting with off the bat. And right now, you can now get Skeletor on day 7 of simply logging into the game. That'll make your third legendary when starting with this link. So right now is a fantastic time to start playing Raid Shadow Legends. Let's get into the video. What we're going to be talking about today are 13 legendaries on my account that I might have forgotten about, that I might not have used, that I might not have built. This doesn't necessarily mean they are bad. I am not saying they are bad, and that's where this becomes slightly embarrassing. They could be phenomenal, but I know for a fact the first legendary champion I pulled ever on my account makes this list and finds herself in this vault. So yeah, this just means that I haven't built them. I might have forgotten about them. They haven't really been used. And right now, they're simply just existing on my account. We're going to dive into the Vault Guardians on my account. These are 13 legendary champions that have spent more time in my vault than they have outside of it. Again, this does not mean that they are bad champions. I might have just, there's one champion in there's two champions in here that I actually forgot that I had. I don't know their names, and I literally forgot that I had them. But we're going to be talking about that just a little bit here today. And again, as we go through them, some of these champions might be really good. And that's what excites me about this, right? Revisiting this vault or visiting this vault excites me because we might stumble onto something that we have in this vault that we can then look at potentially investing in that can add value to our account. Perhaps that's what we find here today if we're lucky. So, last disclaimer, this is not to belittle these champions. It's not to say that they are bad. It's actually to potentially find a way that we can use these champions on my account. And if we cannot find a use for them right now, maybe this will just plant the seed and remind me of their existence so that maybe I find content in the future, in the near future, where they will come into my mind and be like, yo, you can perhaps use Sil. So let's jump into this. Off the bat, we've got Visix right here. I think his name is Modo. I'm not going to say his full name because in South African slang, the latter part of his name is a bit sus. But we've got Visix, we've got Modo, we've got Sil, we've got April, we've got Eleonoral, Karato, Manaya. Is it Brachus? It could be Brachus. Razin. No idea who this is. So I mentioned there's two champions that I forgot I even had on my account. I have no idea who this is right here. No idea. And this, I have no idea who that is. This is my second Padraig, so that's why he's over here. And then Skeletor with the recent event. So those are the 13 champs we find ourselves with. So this being a 1+1 champion, I know for a fact I pulled him and Cupidus. And Cupidus is who I use, and he has just been in the vault ever since. No idea who this is, just chilling. April was the first ever legendary I pulled on my account. I think it took me 6 months before I pulled a Lego on my account, and April was the first legendary I pulled. I vividly remember pulling April and seeing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trademark at the bottom of the screen, and I was like, yo, this could be Donnie, this could be Donnie. It wasn't Donnie, it was April. And I'm not quite sure. Some people might think she's really good. I'm not saying she's bad. Maybe there's a usage for her on my account. That's what we're going to establish here today. To go into Visix, we know that Visix is a daily champion that you get from daily loggings. Modo I pulled, Sil's daily logging similar to Visix. Eleonoral was the champion that I started with. So I started out with Eleonoral on the link that I started with back in the day. Karato was a pull. Manaya was a recent pull. If this is Brachus, he was also a pull. Razin was also a pull because I haven't done the fusion as yet. He was a 1+1. Have I done the Razin fusion? I'll go and check right now. He was a 1+1 pull. No idea who this is. No idea how they made it onto my account. Padraig was a pull of an ancient, and Skeletor was the recent event. Let's go and check the fusion tab real quick. Have we fused Razin? Okay, so Razin was a fusion. We did complete the Razin fusion, and that is why he is on our account. So I can't actually say anything bad right off the bat. I know that I've tried to use Soul back in the day. I even tried to use it in Clan Boss because of that ally protect, but she just didn't add the value when I needed it. Modo I use in Knights Revenant, if I'm not mistaken. Knights Revenant Faction Wars. Karato I use in Shadowkin Faction Wars. Brackus or Team Jacob I use in Skinwalkers Faction Wars. And that's that. So I'm going to choose maybe 3 or 4 of these champions just to talk about. Let's go to Manaya, Brackus, whoever this is, and April. Let's talk about 5 champions. Let's talk about those 5 champions, briefly go through their kits, and this is just a random selection. If you guys have seen a different champion in the vault that you'd like me to actually take a look at, I promise you I will do that. In my spare time, I will diligently look at their kit and review their kit and see if you suggest them for certain content. I will genuinely take a look at that and potentially invest in them in certain content. So let's go into these champions. The first one that I see here will be April O'Neil, as part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle events, part of the Sacred Order faction. As you can see, I do have kits on her, which means that I have used her. I don't remember what content I've used her for. Potentially Sacred Order Faction Wars. Not sure. Sacred Order was one of the first factions that I finished. So let's go through a kit. A1 attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, or petrification on the target for 1 turn. Then places a perfect veil buff on herself for 2 turns. A lot of accuracy needed there. Her A2 attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of stealing all buffs from the target. Also has a 75% chance of stealing 100% of the target's current turn meter. Then has a 75% chance of placing a nullified debuff and a sealed debuff on a target for 2 turns. The passive effect within the A2 has a 25% chance of activating the explosive scoop on an enemy when they gain an extra turn or an instant turn effect. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. This skill will not activate on duplicate copies of this champion if this particular champion is dead. A3, live on the scene, places a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns, also then decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 20%, then grants an extra turn. Whew, that's a long passive. Ace Reporter decreases all enemies' turn meters by 10% whenever an enemy has their skill activated, teams up with allies to attack, gains an extra turn or an instant turn, has their skill cooldowns decreased, gets their shield values increased, gets their destroyed HP restored, has their HP swapped by allies or by themselves, evades an enemy effect or skill, has their turn meter equalized, or has their HP balanced from a skill, occurs once per skill. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. This skill will not activate on a duplicate copy of this champion if this particular champion is dead. Active effect. Whenever enemies remove, transfer, or decrease the duration of any debuff to 0, decreases the turn meter of enemies by 25%. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. This skill will not activate on duplicate copies of this champion if this champion is dead. Bars. That was a passive. She's got a 28% speed increase in arena battles, which is a crazy aura. And I know for a fact that my boy Siki, who you guys have heard of a lot on the channel, he said that he's got a 6-star soul for April. And I've heard him speak about this often. Capes, I wish I could trade you the soul. I wish I could trade you the soul. I think that April in a 6-star soul could be crazy. This seal debuff, if I remember seal correctly, it ignores gear and masteries. Let's check this out real quick. Seal. There are 2 versions of this debuff, Seal and Master Seal. The Seal debuff blocks effects from gear sets and masteries, except stat boosts granted by artifacts and accessories, as well as masteries that only boost stats, like Blade Disciple, Flawless Execution, etc. Okay, so the Seal and Master Seal debuffs don't block effects that were activated before these debuffs were placed. Okay, so technically Seal will take away Perception's additional accuracy and speed, or Righteous's additional speed and resistance, but it won't take away the actual stats provided by the gear. Do I understand that correctly? So she could be used in my arena team, man. She genuinely could be used. I think that if I had a soul on her, I would definitely be using her. Like a 5-star soul would be crazy on her. But outside of arena, I don't see any other content that I might use her in. Again, guys, I'll meet you in the comments after this video goes live and we can have a discussion. I could be completely ignorant, for lack of a better term, to how much value these champions add, and that's what I'm looking forward to exploring and potentially discovering with you guys. On to the next champion we go. Manaya from the Bannerlord. She looks kind of cool. I dig her entire aesthetic. She could pass as like an assassin as well, based on, I know she's not part of the assassin thing, but just her entire kit looks maybe from the same era. as some of the Assassin's Creed champions. Let's briefly run through her kit. I've got her in Journal of Necrotis, so maybe I've built her before or used her in Bannerlords, because Bannerlords is another faction that I've completed. Anyway, let's run through a kit real quick. A1 attacks one enemy, places a 15% continuous heal buff on the ally with the lowest HP for 2 turns. A2 attacks one enemy, heals this champion and the ally with the lowest HP by 30% of this champion's max HP, has a 75% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction debuff and leech debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. I didn't know she does heal reduction. This could be kind of cool. These debuffs cannot be resisted if Corona is on the same team. No idea who Corona is. Maybe that's why we put it in the vault, because we were like, she needs a partner. We don't have the partner. Let's wait until we get it. That could be a justifiable reason, but that could be waffle. A3 heals all allies by 40% of their max HP, places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. If a champion is fully healed by this skill, also places a shield buff on them for 2 turns equal to 25% of the champion's HP. Wait, that sounds really good. Like, her kit sounds really good. She's got a 19% speed aura as well in all battles. And then she also comes with a passive. As soon as you get it to 3-star ascension, fills the turn meters of all allies by 20% and heals them by 20% of this champion's max HP when this champion is killed. Revives this champion with 75% HP when killed if Corona is on the same team. Her kit sounds like above decent. This is what I was excited about. I'll potentially use this champion. I can see value her kit could add to my current main champion roster. You know what I'm saying? Who's next? Was it Brachus? It was Brachus. Brachus the Shifter. So yes, we do use Brachus in Skinwalkers. I know that for a fact. So far, I think both champions, Sacred Order being April, Bannerlords being Manaya, I think we've used them in our faction wars. So, interesting. Brachus attacks one enemy, heals this champion by 15% of the damage inflicted. That's his A1. A2 attacks one enemy 6 times. Yeah, that was 6 times. The first hit has a 75% chance of placing a 25% weakened debuff for 3 turns, heals this champion by 25% of the damage inflicted, heals this champion by 50% of the damage inflicted instead, if the target is under fear or true fear. Okay, decent. Nothing crazy. Fire Knight, maybe, because of that A2. Places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 3 turns, then attacks one enemy 3 times. Definitely Fire Knight. That's 6 attacks here, that's 3 attacks here. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing True Fear debuff for 1 turn, has a 50% chance of placing a Fear debuff on 2 random enemies for 1 turn if the True Fear debuff is placed. And then a passive as well. Damage increases by 40% when this champion's HP drops below 40%. Active effect revives this champion with 20% HP when killed. Immediately grants an extra turn. Wait, that's kind of dope. Okay, I need to... Oh, no Force Potions. Well, Force Keep is open. After this video, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. So I can see usage for him, especially in my Skinwalkers faction wars. And if we go through to faction wars real quick, Skinwalkers is one of the factions I need to finish. So we recently finished Ogren, and we're going to work on Knights Revenant, Undead, and Skinwalker and Demon Spawn, and then obviously Shadowkin as well. I'm waiting. This might be a weird thing to do, slightly off topic, but I'm waiting to level up certain champions I need for faction wars, to do it during like a champion training in the next fusion or something like that. Ever since doing my first fusion, the game's changed. I've become very patient and very disciplined. Maybe not with shards, but baby steps. Let's go back to the champions. Okay, so that was Jacob Brachus. Astrolon. Wait, he looks kind of fire. Wait a minute. This might be one of my favorite designs on a champion in Raid. Wait, that looks crazy. Okay. Astrolon, Sacred Order. He's got a ring on, so maybe I've used him as well. If you like him, then you gotta put a ring on it. Let's go through his kit. Astrolon, what's happening? I completely forgot you existed on my account. I apologize profusely. Your A1 attacks one enemy twice. Has a 30% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Countess Lix will team up and join the attack if they are on the same team. Countess Lix will use their default skill. Countess leaks will not team up on this attack if this skill is used when counter-attacking or when teaming up to attack with another champion. Similar to Manaya, they need a partner to shine. And I think this is why I placed him in the vault. Not gonna lie, can't say that with 100% certainty, but as soon as a champion needs a partner that I don't have, that's probably why I would put them in the vault. A2 attacks one enemy, will ignore increased defense, strengthen, and ally protection buffs, revives a random ally with 40% HP, and places a shield buff on them equal to 20% of their max HP for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. Also then places a shield debuff on themselves equal to 20% of their max HP for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. A3 removes all buffs from targets under Veil or Perfect Veil buffs. Then places a 25% weaken debuff on enemies who have Veil or Perfect Veil buffs removed, then attacks all enemies. Also has a 75% chance of placing a stun debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. 3-star Ascension will then give them fills this champion's turn meter by 3% every time an ally is hit, decreases incoming damage by 25% if the attacker's attack is lower than this champion's attack. I'm guessing then it's definitely an attack champion, yep. Okay, interesting kit, but again, I think you've made it into my vault, Astrolon, because of the fact that you need a partner to excel. So I have no idea who this is. Lysantha Beastbane, High Elves, absolutely clueless to who this is. Not even sure when I pulled them. Attacks one enemy 2 times. The first hit has a 75% chance to place a hex debuff on the target for 2 turns. Places a 30% increased crit damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. So this is how I already know that I forgot Lysantha Beastbane exists on my account. I thought that Mithrala was my first champion that did Hex. And here we see I've had a champion that does Hex. RIP. A2 attacks one enemy twice, has a 20% chance of repeating that attack. When this champion counter-attacks or teams up with allies to join an attack, will use this skill instead of the default skill. Kinda like that. The damage inflicted with this skill increases by 10% each time an ally is devoured, and that stacks up to 50%. A3 attacks all enemies twice. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff and a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. If a target is under a hex debuff, places these debuffs before attacking. I like that as well. An ascension to 3 stars will allow for it to ignore life barrier and ally protection buffs. It will also increase this champion's defense by 5% for each active buff on this champion, and that also stacks up to 50. It's also got an aura, 28% defense in all battles. So there we have it, guys. There we have it. Those are the 5 champions that I have in my master vault that, first of all, I forgot existed on my account. Second of all, some of them I've never ever used, can't remember even pulling them. Some of them need partners to potentially reach their maximum potential, that's why they're in here. And April was just, I don't know, maybe I was sad at the fact that I got an April instead of a Donatello or a Raphael. Couldn't have been a Leo because that would have been void. Mikey was already in my roster, so I have no idea. To be blatantly honest with you, I have no idea. But I'm sure, guys, surely I'm not alone in this, right? Surely there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of raid players out there who have champions in their vaults that they might have forgotten they pulled or existed on their account. Or is that just me? But let's be real. One of the things that, as we've made our way into the mid-game, we understand about raid is that building a champion isn't free. The books, the masteries, the silver to get the gear on them, the possibility of having the correct gear to allow for them to shine and reach their maximum potential. These things, this is difficult in mid-game raid. It is definitely difficult, so potentially that could be contributing as to why they've just been vaulted. I'm not going to sit here and say that's why, because that would be a lie. Many of them might have different reasons that I just find myself in a place in the game where I don't have a use for them and I can't see having a use for them. For example, I don't think I'll ever use Soul unless I get a 6-star Soul. I don't think I'd use Soul. Modo, I'm pretty sure he's a Knight's Rev and that's where I use him. Karato, Shadowkin, that's where. Elena Roll. I have heard amazing stories about her for Clan Boss, for Hydra, but for me, she's possibly one of the squishiest champions on my account. And that's why maybe after the first 2 months, maybe even after the first month is when I stopped using Elena Roll. And we're at a year now, guys. So it's just a champion I have never, ever used. I know that she's a poisoner. I only know that because I started this account with her, so obviously I did the research. So I know that she does poisons, and I know that she might activate those poisons as well. I speak under correction. I've just never used her after the first month of this account. But I mean, that's a valid reason for the fact that sometimes good champions might take some time before you can build them because of how important resource management is within RAID, how important timing is within RAID, and how important discipline is for long-term rewards in RAID. 2 months ago, I wouldn't have said any of this, but after my first fusion, I now understand firsthand that these things are of utmost importance within RAID. And that could also be why some of these champions are in my vault and not in my roster. So this is where it becomes interesting, and I'm going to ask you guys for your help. Which of these champions should I genuinely take out of this vault and invest in and 6-star if they're not 6-starred, and get them fully mastered and get them in good gear, book them out and utilize them on my account? Which of these champions do you guys think that is worth doing on? Please let me know down in the comments below. I'm excited to see. Genuinely, I could be sleeping on one of these champions, and instead of staying quiet about it, I'd rather ask and learn and then be like, yo, alright then, my fault, let's build somebody and use them, yeah? So, which one should be next? Maybe one of these Vault Guardians need a chance, and it's my fault for not investing in them and for not believing in them. And that's okay if I make this right. So help me out. Who should we go for? On that note, thank you once again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video and for hooking us up with our download link. Right now is a fantastic time to start Raid, so get involved. Using that link of mine that you can find in the description directly supports me and directly supports the channel. I'm truly excited to see what you guys come up with. I feel like it could be April. I feel like you guys are going to point towards April and say that I've been sleeping on April, but I will wait. I will wait. Remember, using that link in the description directly supports me, directly supports the channel. Have a fantastic day further. Happiness is a choice. Kindness is absolutely free. Leave your mark, yo. Peace out.